Anyway, speaking of torture, here we have an article from The Guardian. Trans people's mental health is at crisis point in the UK, warn experts. Helplines report rising demand as conversion practices decisions follows years of negativity from government, media, and outlets. I wonder what, rather, media and others. I wonder what media people might be referring to. Could it be The Guardian? Could it be The Guardian? Is one of those media outlets that maybe makes trans people feel unwell? Maybe. The mental health of the UK's transgender community is at a crisis point, professional bodies and supports groups have told The Guardian. So now The Guardian is aware of this. Is going to be any change in The Guardian's, way of doing it? I don't know. The stark warnings follow a week of intensified public discussion of transgender rights as the government moved to exclude trans people from a ban on conversion practices. Again, quote-unquote conversion practices, aka torture. This is torture. If you lock someone in a room against their will, I mean, what is that? Enslavement, right? And then you psychologically berate them and abuse them until they submit to your every will, that's torture. That's enslavement and torture? It's not a practice. There's no conversion going on. It's just torture. The Equality and Human Rights Commission also published a guidance saying transgender people could legitimately be excluded from single-sex services if the reasons were justifiable and proportionate. Say that again. What? What? I'll read that later. That's a whole nother can of worms. I will read that shit later. The focus on such issues has raised concerns among experts who see a direct line between statements made by politicians and individual well-being. There is strong evidence that minorities experience greater levels of stress when their rights are being debated. Huh. Now you might think, no fucking shit, bitch. When I saw this headline, I was thinking, anyone who's shocked by this, honestly, if anyone deserves to be tortured, it's anyone that would see this article and go like, no way. What? Anyone who's in any way surprised by this result, right? Though, if they need to go, I don't know, man. They need to go to third grade or something again, or for the first time, depending on. My God, the mental health of the trans community has been affected, not just in the past week, but over the past few years, by the perception the government is hostile to trans rights. They sense that they are not protected, and the fact that this is happening against a backdrop of hate crime and transphobia is on the rise. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that fucking crazy? When people's rights are under attack, and people getting beaten, murdered in the street because of being gay or trans, is going to make more people in that community feel unsafe. Someone was literally murdered and thrown off a bridge for no other reason than being gay. As a gay person, that makes me feel uncomfortable. Someone was fucking raped and murdered and thrown into traffic for being trans. Maybe I, as a trans person, am going to be slightly less comfortable leaving the house. Wow. That's shocking. I would have never guessed. Jowett conducted research for the UK government on conversion practices last year ahead of the consultation on a ban. He emphasized that all psychological and medical bodies in the UK, including the Royal College of Psychiatrics and the British Medical Association, were united in the view that the practice was unethical, potentially harmful, and not supported by evidence. We feel it is absolutely necessary for transgender people to have the same level of protection as anyone else. In the past week, support services for trans people have reported an increase in demand. The anti-abuse charity Gallup, for example, said it was taking calls to its helpline from trans people who feel exhausted and dispirited by their exclusion from the government's proposed conversion therapy ban and the surrounding conversation on social media and in the news. Meanwhile, individual families contacted The Guardian privately to express a despair at what was described as the perfect storm of transphobic misunderstanding and misinformation. I'd go as far as to say it's disinformation. People are purposefully lying. Anyone who is in favor of torture for trans people is a genocidal maniac. J.K. Rowling, again, she is the main She's like the spokesperson for the genocide group in the Turf Island. They're pro-genocide fascists. They are neo-Nazis. 35 to 40% in a poll of those in the UK support torturing minorities. They are neo-Nazis. Who else wanted to support torturing minorities? The Nazis. They kind of built entire institutions that revolved around torturing minorities. All LGBT young people, but trans young people especially, are suffering a crisis in mental health, said Dominic Arnall, the chief executive of Just Like Us, a UK-wide charity that works with schools to support LGBT plus youth. It is driven by the constant drip of negativity from the government, media, and others, creating a climate that says that they are not worthy of the same human rights and freedoms as the rest of us enjoy. The past week in particular has been tremendously difficult for trans young people. They hear the Prime Minister describing conversion therapy as abhorrent, but then not banning it for trans people. It's abhorrent. It's torture. But yeah, let's torture the fuck out of these trannies, right? I mean, torture's good for the trannies. It's bad for us, and maybe I got like a gay cousin or something. But the fucking evil freak show, sexual predator trannies, let's torture the shit out of them. Anyone that thinks that they're not a Nazi when they say that is fucking stupid. They are Nazis. Anyone that would support torture for anyone, let alone specifically wanting to torture only minority groups. Like, if you recognize that it's torture, and if you recognize that it's evil, right? And yet you only want to inflict the torture and the evil on minority groups, I don't know what to tell you, man. That makes you a Nazi. It makes you a fucking Nazi. That's it. There is no, it's that simple. If you recognize that there's something wrong with torture, and you still want to wield that as a tool against only certain minority groups, the 1940s called, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, is The Guardian going to change anything? Probably not. Is anyone going to change anything? Probably not, because this is the point. They like this. These outlets that fundraise off of the idea that they're like, oh, they enjoy this. This is like, to them, this is like, yes, maybe they'll kill themselves so we don't have to do the work for them. That's what they view this as, because they are neo-Nazis. Anyone that specifically wants to wield torture against certain minorities that they dislike is a neo-Nazi, full stop. You don't need to do any other, but on this issue, it doesn't matter what other issue. They are pro-torture for minorities they don't like. That's neo-Nazi, that's it. Everything else, every other opinion they've ever had is irrelevant. It will never be relevant until maybe they stop advocating for torture against minorities. But until that point, they're Nazis. It's a waste of time and effort to pretend like anything else. J.K. Rowling is a Nazi. Boris Johnson is a Nazi. Full stop. That's it. That's it. There is no, and then also, they're Nazis. It's that simple. The Nazis have control of the UK's parliament. It's that simple. I don't know what else to tell you. Anyway, that's horrifying. Drinking some goddamn coffee.